Present simple. Gracious me, this is our first grammar term that we're going to address, and actually it's rather fun. I tell my students quite often that if they can really nail this particular point of English grammar, everything else just flows. And to a certain extent, I might be tricking them a little bit. I really believe that once this is in the bag, everything really can flow from here. The present simple is our first building block, and we could consider it the keystone upon which everything else rests. If we go back to using my skeleton metaphor, I wonder if we could consider it our tailbone, because that holds the rest of the spine up, to be sure. So, what does the present simple look like? We heard a story previous to this lecture about Robert Smith, and that story only used present simple, so we know what it sounds like. And as we can see on the slide here, we know what it looks like. Let's have a look at the screen here. As I said earlier, we just heard the story of Robert Smith, and we only heard the present simple. We use the present simple for routines, facts, instructions, fixed actions such as timetables or the theatre, and more, as you see here. It's really a beautiful piece of grammar. We can do so much with it. When we describe it to our students, we could describe it as simple, of course, everyday facts. What you do or someone does every day, all the time, every week, every month, every year. The sun rises, the sun sets. I always brush my teeth. I sometimes watch really, really bad television. I think we all might have that in our bag of tricks. What we're going to focus on in the coming lectures is how we form the present simple when we have sentences or questions and so on using he, she, or it, our third person. As you can see here on the slide, we seem to use a lot of the letter S in these. Now, what we're going to focus on in the coming lectures, so don't worry too much now, is we're going to be looking at how our auxiliary, so do or does, how that is our strong part of the sentence. It takes this very essential letter S. Our verbs need the S when we use he, she, or it, the third person, but our auxiliary as the nuts and bolts of a sentence or question, it overtakes the role and it takes over our S. It lifts and carries our sentence or question. We're going to look at that in a little bit more detail coming up. So, how can we introduce this grammar form into our classroom? I've got a couple of techniques which I might recommend to you, and possibly you use them already or you've heard about them, but I'll let you know just in case. I like to start asking my questions what their morning routine is or their daily routine. For example, so what do you do every morning? What do you do at work? What time do you arrive? When do you have your lunch break? And when do you leave? These are pretty simple questions, and by asking them and seeking answers, you're gauging your students' ability to form questions, and you're also gauging their ability to use that very essential S. And this is where it all starts from, present simple. In the following lectures, we're going to look in closer detail at how we form our sentences, our negatives, our questions, also using W words. We're also going to look at how we use be, so am, is, and are. This is pretty essential. And we're also going to really activate these skills. So you're going to develop this wonderful sense for the present simple in your own mind, and then have these resources and activities for applying it in your own classroom. So, are you ready to get going? and really find out what Robert Smith was all about and how you can prepare your own Robert Smith type story? Fantastic. Let's go.